Okay. Good morning. Good morning, guys. And good morning, everybody. So, it's a nice day outside. It's pretty humid here right now. But I wanted to go live and talk about some things. I'm getting ready to start my 5K fundraiser for Magnolia's Heart. And I wanted to touch on some things to kind of give people a little bit of background. This is something that it's kind of touchy. It's a touchy thing. Hey, good morning. It's kind of a touchy thing. It's kind of something that a lot of people are ashamed to talk about, but I am not. I feel like anything that I've went through in my life is a part of my journey, and I'm not ashamed of anything at all. I was in foster care, you know. I speak about it a great deal, and you know, it's just a piece of me. It's a part of my journey. It's where I've come from. A little bit about myself for those who don't know. I am the oldest of 11 children. My mom had 8 girls and 3 boys. Yeah, 8 girls, 3 boys, y'all, and that ain't no lie. I was born in Savannah, Georgia, but I was raised in Effingham County. Good morning, good morning. I was raised in Effingham County, which is like a small county, probably about 30, probably about 20 something miles outside of Savannah. All parts of Effingham County. Good morning. Springfield, Clio, Guyton. Those are the areas that I lived in. We bounced all over the place. Hey, Tasha. We bounced all over the place. My mom is originally from Bryan County, which is like Pembroke, Ellabelle area. But we never lived in that area. Good morning, Tasha. How you doing? We never lived in that area, so we lived in Effingham. I'm not here to tell my mom's story. That's her story for her to tell, so I'm not going to really touch on her too much as far as like her story, but I'm going to tell a little bit about myself. Hey, Fallon. But my mom was on drugs, working. Listen, I've been up super early, so I walked up here to the park to get my little cardio in, and I'm gonna go to the gym a little bit later, but right now I'm up here at the park. But anyway, my mom was on drugs. She was on crack. So there was, you know, however it happened, we were at school, me and my siblings, and I remember getting this call, good morning, and them telling us to come up to the front office and saying that, you know, we need to come up to the front office. And I remember getting up there, and my younger siblings, my 2 sisters, were like already in the office, like crying, and I'm just looking like, oh my God, what happened? Like, did something happen? And they were in there questioning them. You know, I found out later they were in there questioning them because they had received an anonymous call. And someone basically reported that, you know, my mom was abusing us and that she was on drugs and she was leaving us in the house by ourselves. So then they questioned me. I remember them questioning me and asking me to remove pieces of my clothing, like my jacket. Take your jacket off. We need you to lift your shirt up in the back. You know, I had a long sleeve shirt on. Can you lift your sleeves up? And I had just gotten a really bad whipping. My mom had really beat me real bad. So I had black and blue marks like on my arm and my back and stuff. And I remember them taking pictures of the marks. I remember them, you know, asking us, you know, since I was the oldest, I remember them asking me questions like, do y'all have any family members that you feel like will step up and help out with you guys? And you know, when you young, you think everybody is like, oh yes, we got a lot of, you know, we got a lot of family members. So I remember naming and jotting down certain family members that they could call and giving them numbers and stuff like that. And them calling person after person after person after person and not really getting any leeway, no success. But ultimately we were placed into foster care. Good morning. We were placed into foster care, and I remember them having us at DFACS, at Family and Children's Services, literally that whole day. We were tired. They ordered us pizza. There was so many of us, they already had told me as the oldest that they would not be able to put all of us in the same home. They, you know, they had already let me know, like, we're not going to be able to place all of y'all together because there's too many of y'all. At the, you know, again, my mom had 11 kids. It's 8 girls, 3 boys. So I knew that they were not going to find a home that was going to be able to take all of us. But I remember sitting at Family and Children's Services with these, you know, excuse my French, I'm a little black girl, but sitting here with these Caucasian women and them making calls and calling all of these different people and ordering us food to try to keep, you know, us satisfied or whatever the case may be, and you know, letting the little kids, my siblings, play with the toys and stuff, and I'm sitting there like, oh my God, what is about to happen to us? And I remember being told that, you know, we found a foster home for the 2 youngest. We're going to put those 2 together. The boys are going to be sent to this boys group home here locally. And so they sent all 3 of the boys to the same group home. They told me and my other 3 sisters that we would be placed in a group home in Savannah, Georgia called Greenbrier. And that is basically like an intake. It's like a hub for when you first come into foster care or whatever. And they kind of like, they only had like temporary space for us. So I remember them sending us to Greenbrier, and the rest is history. A lot of times, like, people are embarrassed to speak about some of the things that they've been through. They're kind of embarrassed, so they just don't have the courage to talk about it, but because they're touching on like some of the deepest pieces of themselves and exposing some of the deepest pieces of themselves with other people. But I truthfully feel like when you share those pieces with the world and you expose those pieces with other people, there are many people that can relate to that. There are many people that can heal from your story. So that is why I have no issue with bearing all when it comes to that situation. Magnolia's heart for me is my baby that I'm getting ready to put out into the world so that I can give back to a situation and an issue that is worldwide. It didn't just happen where I'm from. It's happening everywhere. And I want to be able to give back and help in a major way, not only in foster care, but also in homes of single mothers who are struggling with addiction, who are struggling with paying their bills, who are struggling with raising their children, who are struggling with all kind of things. Because ultimately the basis and the root to foster care is the home. There's a lot of women out here raising children by themselves who don't have husbands, who don't have the fathers of their children present, who, you know, and this is not a male bashing, you know, situation, but a lot of women are doing this shit by themselves. You know what I'm saying? They're doing it alone. And I can understand now as an adult, but as a child, you know, you don't really understand, why is my mom, you know, beating me like this? Why is my mom on drugs? Why is my mom leaving me at the home with all of my siblings? Why is my mom, you know, allowing me to be put into spaces where I'm being physically abused? Because I was, and sexually abused. I was sexually abused as a kid. I was 9 years old the first time somebody touched me. You know, probably younger than that, to be honest with you. It's pieces of me that I've shut away so that I don't have to deal with it on a day-to-day basis. But I was 9 years old when I had my innocence stolen from me, you know, because I didn't have a mother who had a sound mind, who was around all the time, who was watching me, who was caring for me for whatever reason, you know, behind it. But now that I'm an adult, I do realize that women that are raising children by themselves, who don't have the help, who don't have the resources, who do not have the fathers of these children available, the family that they need, the village that they need, because it really does take a village to raise children. They don't have these things, so they turn to drugs, they turn to alcohol, they turn to the streets, they turn to men, they turn to all kind of different things, you know what I'm saying? So I definitely want to do some things to give back, and this is something that I've been thinking about for a long time. But you cannot move prematurely. You have to move when I have to move when God tells me to move. It came up in my mind. It was something that I have been thinking about for years, and God said move. He told me to move my feet, so that's what I'm going to do. I went through a lot of stuff in foster care. I went through a lot of things in my home. You know what I'm saying? I have been beat severely with, you know, stenching cords, broomsticks, shoes, you know, switches. I remember having to go outside in the backyard and cutting my own switch and looking at this tree saying, if I come back in there with a little switch, then, you know, she's going to get mad and my beating is going to be way worse. You know what I'm saying? I remember thinking like, dang, if I get this big one, she's going to beat me to, you know, beat the hell out of me with it. You know what I'm saying? But ultimately, you know, in my mind, I just really wanted to be set free from the situation. I really felt like nobody cared. I really felt like, you know, people sat around and watched me and my siblings go through things, and I can't speak for my siblings because I'm not them. I can't speak about their experience. All I can talk about is mine, and being the oldest of 11 children and being in a home where you're being beat all the time. You know, you're being cursed at, yelled at, you know, left to care for children, and you're a child yourself. You really don't know what to do. I remember being able to cook at a young age. That's why I'm like super self-sufficient and why I am the way that I am, because at a young age I was sweeping, I was washing dishes, I was cooking from the time that I was old enough to look over a fucking stove. You know what I mean? Changing diapers, fixing bottles, carrying babies. At one point in time, I remember being young and not standing up straight, being bent over to the side because I was always carrying a damn baby. My mama had a baby every year because we're literally like a year or two apart in age. Just being beat for no reason. You know what I mean? Just being beat for nothing. Like, I remember times being young where she would look at me and just, I mean, with a scowl on her face and tell, you know, and I would turn around and I look at her and she'd be like, turn your head, what the fuck you looking at, you know? Being emotionally and mentally abused on top of being physically beaten just was a really rough time. And things like that can really break a child's spirit. It really can break a child's spirit. Not only that, being, you know, moving around all the time. I literally went to every elementary school in Effingham County. Every elementary school. I went to Guyton Elementary. I went to Springfield Elementary. I went to Ebenezer Elementary, because we're always moving, always moving. You don't know what it does to a child to be in an unstable situation, an unstable environment where they're never able to really plant their feet and get comfortable because they're always, you know, moving. You know what I'm saying? Not having a bed of my own to sleep in, not having clothes of my own to sleep in, you know, sharing clothing with my siblings. You know, I mentioned the other day, me and my sisters used to share clothes. We didn't have a choice. I don't ever remember going in a store with my mom. I don't ever remember going to a restaurant with my mother. I don't, you know, the things that people take for granted, I don't ever remember, you know, being able to go with my siblings, with my mom, in a store, or being able to sit down at a restaurant and enjoy a meal with my mama. Like, I don't have those memories. I don't have memories of playing with dolls. I don't have memories of playing with toys, period. Because I was not afforded the opportunity to do so, because I was always caring for my siblings. I was always literally in fight or flight as a child. Fight or flight all the time as a kid. You know what that does to a person's mind, a child's mind? Children are the most precious, the most innocent beings on the face of this earth, the closest thing to God. So just imagine being a child, scared, you know what I'm saying, abused, you know, broken, and not knowing where your next meal was gonna come from because your mama done spent all the money on whatever her habit is, not knowing if the lights are gonna be on, not knowing if you're gonna come home from school and being told that we're moving again, not knowing if, I mean, just waking up to being yelled at, to being beaten, just uncertainty, you know what I'm saying? Just instability, period. It does something to a child's mind, and it does something to their spirit. So that is why this this nonprofit organization of mine is so near and dear to my heart. I'm really, in my mind, you know, I've prayed about it. God has truly given me, laid out a path for me. And I definitely think I'm going to be able to bless a lot of people with my organization, because it's coming from a place of something that I can relate to. It's coming from a place of, you know, experience. It's coming from the heart of a person that has really literally bared all. Thank you, Lex. I love you too. Thank you so much. But you know, a lot of people judge you, and they really don't know where you came from. They really don't know your story. They really don't know the things that you have been through. I have been in therapy from the time that I was little, you know, and in foster care, because of the things that I've been through. You know what I'm saying? I remember being, you know, playing outside at my grandmother's home in the country in Pembroke, Georgia, running around in the yard with my cousins. I remember the pants that I had on, y'all. I remember the pink pants that I had on with the strap that goes under the bottom of your feet, and some little white little tennis shoes that my mom had bought from Bill's Dollar in Springfield, Georgia. And I remember playing with my cousins and being snatched up and held down behind my grandmother's house while somebody sexually abused me, sexually assaulted me. And I still to this day it's like I can smell this person. I remember what I had on. I remember what my cousins were doing. I remember having dirt all in my hair. I remember that the adults were standing around drinking and doing whatever they wanted to do. And by the time this person was done doing whatever they wanted to do, I remember taking a bath that night and barely being able to sit down in the tub because I had scratches in my private area. These are real situations. These are real issues. These are real things that not only have I been through it, but other people that I know have been through it. And I'm not ashamed of it because it is a part of my journey. It's a part of who I am. It's a part of my life. It's the things that I've experienced. And I know that there are many more that have been far worse. There are many more who have been through far worse, who are, you know, who have experienced far worse and have experienced things like mine. And I don't have a problem with sharing or talking about it because thank God I don't look like what I've been through. I have been through a lot of things. And I've experienced a great deal of hurt, a great deal of suffering. But I remember a prophet is telling me at church one Sunday that my latter days would be better, that my latter days would be greater, that I'm going to go through some things as a child, and I'm going to go through some things to get to the blessing that God has for me in the end. So I know that to be true, because statistically, I really should not be where I am right now. Statistically, I really should not have the things that I have. Statistically, I should not be the parent that I am, the mother that I am. Statistically, I shouldn't have the heart that I have, considering the things that I've been through. Again, as a child, you don't understand those things, and I hated my mom for so long. I really hated her for the things that we experienced. But now that I'm an adult and I look back on it, it's like, it's so many mothers that are struggling out here. It's so many moms that, you know, don't have the father's presence. It's so many moms that have been through struggles of their own, and they just don't have the resources. They just don't have the mind to do better. You know what I'm saying? They just don't have, when they say you know better, you do better. It's so many women out here that just don't know any better. They didn't have the right upbringing. They didn't have the right resources or the tools to be a better mother. So I know that's why I had to endure some things. The beatings that I got, you know what I mean? You know, just imagine somebody taking the wooden stick off of a broom and chopping you with it as a child. In your back, your arms, your legs. You know how fragile children are? You know what I'm saying? Do you know how fragile a child is to have to experience that? You know what I mean? Like to rip a extension cord off of an iron and beat a child with it. To beat a child with something like that is, I feel like, inhumane. It's inhumane. To tell a child to go and pick a switch, and when they come back and you, like back in the day in slavery, when you whip that switch and it's no sound coming from it, you say, you know what, this ain't big enough. You went and got the wrong switch. Hold on a second. And then they go and get 2 switches and they tie them together and they beat you with them. And I remember sitting nights having to go take a bath where I was stinging. My skin was stinging already from the beating that I just got. And then I got to sit in a tub of water and try to wash myself with soap. And I got bruises all over my arms, and I got welts all over my arm, and it's stinging, and I'm crying, and I know that there were so many days that I would stand in front of a mirror and I would just say, God, why are you letting this happen to me? You know, why are you doing this to me? Like, what did I do? You know, I'm thinking that it's something that I did. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking that it's something that I did why I'm getting these beatings like this. Like, I'm thinking that, you know, something's wrong with me. It will truly break a child's spirit. You know what I'm saying? It really does. So many beatings, so many nights that I remember not being able to sleep. So many times that I would wake up and I got teased in school so much. You know what I mean? For things that she would dress us in, put clothes on us that didn't match, high waters, hair not done. You know what I'm saying? Nights where we probably didn't have running water, going to school, you know, with clothes that was hand washed and hung up in the backyard. So you're not, you know what I'm saying? You're not clean going to school. I just remember all of those things, and I look back on it and I say, God, you know what? Hey, Moo. God, you really brought me from a mighty long way. You really, really brought me through some things, and that's why I say, you know, God is so good. Brianna, it's a time. You know what I'm saying? It's a time to have to go through those things. My sister is on this live right now, and I can tell you, I remember one night that my mama beat me. I mean, when I say beat me, I don't mean like a regular spanking, but hey Tori, she beat me so bad, and it was the winter time too, y'all. It's like December. And I remember her telling me, you gonna sleep on the porch. You get the fuck out of my house. And I'm a kid, y'all. I'm like 10 years old. I'm like 10 or 11 years old. And her telling me that I had to sleep on the porch. I remember sleeping on a screen porch, y'all, in the cold. I'm sitting on this chair on the front porch. I mean, I'm watching the sun set. It's getting dark. And I'm hearing, you know, bugs outside. I'm hearing animals howling. And it's cold as hell. And I'm crying, and my tears are starting to stain my face. You know, my nose is all stopped up. I was hungry. And I remember my sister Bianca coming to the front porch, and her and my other little sister, they came and they had this little cover in their hand. And I remember them telling me, Joc, here's a cover for you to cover up with. Don't tell mama that we came outside and gave you this cover. I remember them giving me the cover. I remember them sneaking in the kitchen and going and fixing me, putting some peanut butter on the bread and bringing a little piece of bread to me and say, here goes something to eat. You know, don't tell her that we gave you the sandwich. You know what I'm saying? And Bianca, I don't know whether you remember that, but I remember, hey Deontay, I remember, you know, you bringing me that cover. I remember you bringing me a cover to cover myself because I was freezing fucking cold. You know what I'm saying? As a 10-year-old child being placed on a porch and being made to stay out there all night. I was not allowed to come back into the house until the next morning, y'all. The next morning. And I still had to come in the house, wash up, put some clothes on, and get on a school bus and go to school. You know what I'm saying? And go to school after a night being sitting straight up in a chair, shivering to death with a blanket while everybody else is in a warm house sleeping. You understand what I'm saying? It was her not knowing any better. She was a product of her environment, and this is why we work so hard not to repeat the cycle with our own. Yes, and I'm glad that you remember, because that's something that I will forever be grateful for. It's something that a lot of people just do not know. Like, you know what I'm saying? You going to school, you being around people, you going around family members, and they just don't know the hell that you're going through. They just don't understand the hell that you're going through at home, and being made to sleep on a porch at 10 years old and have my sisters bring me a blanket to cover up with. It was the sweetest, but the most terrible memory that I have from my childhood. You know, the beatings and, you know, the moving around a lot. I always felt like I did not have a stable environment. You know what I'm saying? I used to beg to go stay with family members, some of my aunts, my Aunt Ivory, my Aunt Tammy, my Rosabelle, you know, my Aunt Rosa, Lauren, Roy. You know what I'm saying? I used to beg to go stay with these people on the weekends because I knew that they didn't know it, y'all. They did not know it, but they were my saving grace. They were my safe space. They were my, God, I'm trying not to be emotional about this, but they were my place of comfort. They were my, you know, my way out. They were pieces, you know, people that God placed in the situation to give me a breath of fresh air. You know what I'm saying? Get to give me a breath of fresh air, to give me a moment to actually breathe and be comfortable, to be able to sleep and not have to worry about getting up in the middle of the night to fix a bottle, to be able to sleep and not have to worry about getting up in the middle of the night to change a diaper of a baby that I didn't birth. You know what I'm saying? So that I didn't have to get up and fix meals for my siblings, or that I didn't have to worry about where my next beating was going to come from and how bad it was going to be. These people saved me. You know what I'm saying? My Aunt Bobby, my Aunt Ivory, you know, my Aunt Annelle. You know, these people came into my life, and I don't think they know. They have no idea what they saved me from. You know, again, I can't speak about my siblings. They had their own experience, unlike mine, I'm sure. But I can't speak for what they went through. But I know that I went through a great deal in the home. But then once we got into foster care, it's not any better. You placed in an environment with other kids who have been through the same thing, if not worse, as you, and you're basically set into this environment and on a strict schedule, almost like you're in prison. You're told what time that you have to get up to eat. You got, you know, to eat or whatever. You're told what time you got, you know, you got to go to school. You come home from school. You got to sit in the day room or whatever area that they have for you to sit down and watch TV until it's time to go bathe or go outside. And then you start the day over, and it's a repetitive cycle. Not being able to truly be children, not being able to truly, you know, experience childhood. You know what I'm saying? You placed in an environment with people that you don't know. It's like different people coming in and out of this group home. People that you don't know. Everybody looking at each other. You know, it's kids in here with ADD, ADHD, autism, just PTSD. You know, whatever situations that they're coming from, and we just sat into one building and pretty much expected to just survive with each other. You know, and then you got house parents who are hired to be caregivers for these children that are underqualified, underpaid, and then most of them really don't care. They just took a job. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, mistreating the kids, beating the kids, talking to them all kind of ways that they would not talk to their own children, because I've experienced some good house parents. I had one or two. One at St. Mary's Group Home, Miss Sharon Schumann, God bless her, rest her soul. She's, you know, passed away. But that was one of the best house parents that I've ever experienced. But there are other ones who treated you like trash. These people didn't care about these kids. You know what I'm saying? They didn't care. They cared about their check and going home to whatever, you know, family they had. This is why I teach my kids not to pick on others, not to be bullies. You don't know what their home is like. School is a safe haven for some kids, sadly, when the home should be. We had outlets to go to, although I didn't receive the same treatment as y'all. It breaks my heart, man, hearing y'all talk and heal through childhood trauma. Some may get tired of hearing it, but talk about it because it helps other people as well. And that is, I don't care who, I mean, if you don't want to hear about it, you can certainly not listen. It don't even matter. But I talk about it because I know that there are people that can relate, and then there are people that can hear it, and it probably will make them appreciate the stuff that they do have a little bit more. You know, hopefully me talking about this will make you go home and hug on your kids a little bit and tell them that you love them. I never remember being a child and being told that I was loved. Never. So now with my children, I'm always telling my kids, we wake up in the morning, I love you. Before we go to bed at night, I love you. Throughout the day, my children walk up to me and give me hugs and tell me, Mama, I love you. And you know what I say? I love you back. You know, so hopefully hearing things like this will make you go home and hug your children a little bit tighter. You know what I'm saying? You'll hug your kids a little bit more tighter. You will tell them the things that they need to hear now, that you love them. Because kids don't stay kids always. You know what I'm saying? We grow up and we become adults, and in the midst of that, you got to think about the fact that when they become adults, you're going to be older and you're going to need somebody to take care of you. Because as you age and you get older, you go back to childlike. You go back to needing someone to take care of you. I didn't come from a good situation. I didn't come from a good, you know, I wasn't spoon-fed. I didn't have a two-parent home. I didn't have a mother who was of sound mind that could, you know, love on me and take care of me the way that she should. You know what I'm saying? And my mom's biological family was from Bryan County, and that's a whole nother story. You know, because they grew up in the same environment. My mom and her siblings were in foster care as well. You know what I'm saying? They were abused and molested and everything else. You know, and again, that's their story to tell, so I can't tell you that story. But that's a whole nother, it's like a domino effect. It's a chain. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I told God, I'm breaking those chains starting with me and mine, Lord. I want them chains to be broken, because I don't want my children to grow up and hate me, you know, for, you know, abusing them or keeping them in an environment where they, you know, aren't, you know, stable, or being able to eat and being able to provide clothing for them and shelter for them and all the bare necessities that a parent is supposed to give a child. And I don't speak this stuff to, you know, for a pity party or for somebody to feel sorry for me or none of those things, because guess what? I am definitely not nobody's victim at all. Nobody's victim. I have came a long way. I have done things in my life that people who had two-parent homes, you know, grew up in a two-parent home, people who had both of their parents, who didn't get abused, who was in a stable environment as children. I have done things that some of those people could never say they've done. So I'm nobody's victim. Don't feel sorry for me. Just be glad that there is a God. There is a God that cares for people. You know what I'm saying? That loves us in spite of, and that brought me through those situations. I would say without a spot or a wrinkle, without a scars, but I have plenty of scars. Scars that are not visible to the eye, but scars internally that I'm still to this day healing from. I'm still now, as an adult woman at 37 years of age, still healing from things that happened to me as a child. I have been through a great deal of sexual abuse. You know what I mean? And that's another thing that people don't like to talk about. You know, family members touching on you. You know, doing things to you. Friends of family doing things to you. You know, my sister was, you know, she put up a post not long ago, I want to say about 2 or 3 years ago, where she talked about, you know, me giving myself to keep someone from touching on her. And, you know, it's really unfortunate, but a lot of times when children are molested or touched on or sexually abused or sexually assaulted, however you want to put it, it's always by people that are in the family or someone very close to the family. It's hardly ever from someone that you don't know. You know what I'm saying? And I remember this particular person, him and his I don't want to say that was his wife. I think that they were just dating. But him and his wife used to get high with my mom. And I remember every time that we had to go over and stay in this man's little trailer, I remember, you know, the smell of alcohol on his breath. I remember the smell of kerosene, because they had this kerosene heater burning in this house, in this little trailer. And I remember having to lay on this couch with my sisters, and you know, while they were in the back getting high, doing whatever they wanted to do. And I remember this man, you know, I can hear his footsteps coming down the hallway. And I'm like, oh God, I would clutch my sisters, I would hold them, and I'm like, oh God, you know, which one of us is he gonna try to touch on? And I would always say, Joc, in my head, Joc, you're the oldest, protect your sisters, you know what I'm saying? Protect your sisters, don't let nobody touch your sisters. So I would lay on top of them, and when he would come up, and I remember, you know, kissing me all in the mouth, and, you know, like slob all over my face. I remember the smell of alcohol on his breath. I remember him reaching his hands into my clothing and touching on me, and I would lay there and I would just cry. I'm like shaking, you know what I'm saying? I'm shaking, but in my head I'm like, but I'm protecting my sisters. If I let him do it to me, he can't get to them. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes I felt like I had to bear the cross for them. I had to be a shield for them. I had to protect my siblings at any cost. And if it meant for me to give myself up, then that's what I was willing to do. I did not care, you know. So my sister said, I remember you doing that, and I'm so grateful, you know, but you don't have to thank me, because as an older sister, that is what I was willing to do. I was willing to do that. I was willing to bear myself and let anybody do any, you know, have your way with me, do whatever it is that you want to do to me, but just don't touch them. You know, that's how I felt. So I did it then, and I would do it again. And at the drop of a dime, it did not matter to me. But those memories are embedded into my head, and I remember those things, and it showed up in my adult life. And once I was old enough to be sexually active, when I was old enough to engage in those type of activities, it's certain things that I would not let other people do to me. It's certain things that I would not allow certain people to do to me because of the sexual abuse that I experienced as a child. You know what I'm saying? I didn't like kissing at one point. I didn't like nobody to put their mouth on me, because I remember my abuser forcing his tongue down my throat with alcohol breath and slob and nasty saliva and dirty fingernails and just the smell of something foul and nasty. But when I tell you everything that I have been through, it has built a strength inside of me that is unmatched. That is unmatched. I can guarantee you that if you put me in the middle of chaos, war, or whatever, I'm gonna survive every time. You know what I'm saying? Every time. It's gonna hurt. I may bend. I may yield to some things. I may cry. I may, you know, it may seem like it's the end of the world, but I'm gonna make it. I will never be broken. It's the strength of having to endure those things that has made me the woman that I am today, and I'm forever grateful to God for removing me from the situation. But also, I have those stripes. I have those stripes that I've bared in my life, and I'm able to talk about it. I'm able to share my experiences with other people who have experienced similar things or worse, and we can relate. You know what I'm saying? We can relate. We can talk about these things. You know what I'm saying? We can talk about these things because I'm not ashamed. You sound like you're telling my story. Oh, see, and that's what I'm telling you. You know, it's somebody watching this that can relate, that understands and knows what it feels like. So Magnolia's heart for me, when y'all hearing me talk about it on social media and y'all start seeing all of these posts and, you know, and these videos and stuff, please understand and know that this ain't just some gimmick. This is not just something that I woke up and I just said, oh, I want to raise money for foster care to get attention. You know what I'm saying? Or I just woke up one day and I just went, no, you got to understand that there's a story behind it all. And I have the stripes to prove it. I have the war wounds to prove it. I have the paperwork to prove it. Foster care for me was really a tumultuous couple of years, really a tough experience. But it's something that I had to go through to get to where I am today. I was emancipated at age 17, and I was living in Conyers, Georgia, living in Elks Aidmore Girls Home. And a lot of people don't know that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people look at you and they judge you on face value and don't know that there's a story behind everyone, each and every person that's on this live, that's going to watch this live. Every person that's in this world has something, that some type of cross that they've had to bear, you know. And so many people are ashamed or afraid or just don't have the courage to talk about certain things. But for me, this is my journey. This is things that I've been through, and I don't mind sharing it to help other people. And ultimately, I feel like as human beings, we are placed here to help each other. Period. And God put it on my heart to do with Magnolia's Heart. Granny, rest her soul. I named my nonprofit organization after Magnolia Nix Atkins, Magnolia Johnson Nix Atkins. I named it after her because she was a God-fearing woman. She was a woman that nurtured and cared for so many people in Clio, Georgia, and in the Effingham County area, period. She took my mom in at a young age in spite of her misfortunes, in spite of her, you know, the struggles and stuff that she was having as a teenage child. She took her in and she raised her as if she was her own. She loved her, and she loved on all of us as her children. You know, as a child, I sat in the kitchen and I watched this lady cook. She would get us up on Sundays and take us to church when there were events in the area and our mothers could not provide for us. I remember her scraping up the money to send us to the county fairs. You know, when we needed clothing, I remember her scraping up money to buy us clothing. She would feed anyone. I don't care who you are or where you're from. If you showed up at Mag House, you were going to eat. You were going to leave with a full belly. That lady came into my life as, you know, she was there when I was born. You know what I'm saying? From the time that I was born until the day that she left this earth. And in the name of Magnolia, in the name of Granny, I'm going to do some things for some single mothers here coming up for Mother's Day. I'm going to be blessing 5 women. 5. I'm going to be blessing you. I'm going to pay a bill for you. And that's the start of what we're going to do. I'm waiting for my background check to come back for a couple of the group homes in the area, and then I'm going to start mentoring. I've already set up to do a cooking class at a group home here locally in San Antonio. I do plan to come to Georgia and do some things, but I'm going to start where I'm at, where my feet is planted, and then I'm going to work my way around. But ultimately, I think that my healing is always been in my giving. I am a nurturer by nature. I am an empath. I take on a lot of people's issues and their problems and their hurt and their pain. It's just something that naturally I do. And I want to do what I can to give back. And again, my healing is in my giving. You know, some of us, that's just who we are. And I'm gonna say this before I end my live. Bianca, if you're still on here, I remember her dad and her stepmother telling me, because I cried one day and I kept saying, God, why do I have the heart that I have to always give? It's like I'm always giving, and nobody can ask me something without me saying yes. I'm always willing to go above and beyond to help the next person. I would give you the shirt off of my back right now and I ain't got nothing up under it. But if you came to me and said that you needed a shirt, I would take it off my back and give it to you. And I was crying about that, and I kept saying, why am I like this? Like, I hate, you know, not being able to say no. I have no boundaries. I have no, you know what I'm saying, my own protection. I have nothing to stop myself from just giving everything that I have to other people. And I remember her stepmom looking at me and telling me, she said, that's the heart that God gave you. Don't you complain about that heart that God gave you, because he gave it to you for a reason. Would you rather be the lender or the borrower? That's what she asked me. And I had to sit there and think about that thing. And she said, would you rather be the lender or the borrower? And it did not sit with me right then. It didn't resonate. It didn't, you know, register for me. But I had to think about that. And in my life, in my adult life, now that I'm an adult and I can care for myself and I have children of my own, there's only been one time in my adult life that I needed help from somebody else. Once. You know, I'm not talking about being a teenager and, you know, going through the changes, but in my adult life, since I've had children, there's only been one situation when I left my ex-husband where I needed the help of somebody else. But I have always been the lender. I have always been the person that have helped other people. And when I was on the flip side of that, on the other side of that, where I had to be the borrower when I really needed somebody else's help, and seeing how hard it was to get help from other people without them talking about you, or you know, telling your business to other people, or not helping at all. When I saw the flip side of that, then I realized that that is not where I want to be. And all I could do is thank God and tell him, thank you, Lord. Thank you, God, for putting me in a position to be the lender and not the borrower. Thank you, God, for putting me in a position to where I've been able to help others, that people can come to me for help. And I have not been in a position or a place to where I had to borrow from other people, where I had to beg other people for help, where I had to ask anyone for anything, because I've always been a self-sufficient person. From a little girl, I've always been a self-sufficient person. So I thank Miss Margie Schumann and Cecil Schumann for that little piece of hope. It's a little piece of encouragement, a little piece of life, and something that I'll always remember her telling me, don't you dare tell God that you don't, you know, you about that heart that you have. Don't you complain for being in a position to help other people. Don't you do that, because he can take it away from you. He can flip them tables and turn it around to where you're on the opposite end of it and you're not going to like it. You thank God for being in a position to where you don't have to be the borrower. You don't have to be the person that's going to other people for help. You don't have to ask nobody for nothing. That you can provide for your children with nobody but God. He's always put me in a position, and anything that I have done for anyone else, it may not come back from those people, but it has always come in. It has always come back to me. It has always come back to me in some way. So if you are a person that's an empath, if you are a person that's a nurturer by nature, if you are a person that's a giver and you're always seeing yourself give and take care of everyone around you, remember that. Remember those words, to appreciate the heart that God has given you, and appreciate the fact that you are the lender and not the borrower. Appreciate that, because things could always be different, and we don't want them tables to turn. We want to be the lender. I want to be the lender, and I bless God for bringing me out of the situation that I was in, because I have come a long way. I have experienced a great deal of things that people twice my age probably couldn't bear. You know what I'm saying? I have an unspeakable strength inside of me. You know what I mean? I have a strength inside of me that a lot of people do not have. A lot of people would not be able to walk, and people say a mile, but a step in my shoes. I know that some of the people that I talk to would not be able to bear the cross that I have bared. So when you hear me talk about Magnolia's Heart, because I'm actually getting ready to start my fundraiser, understand where it's coming from. Understand the story behind it, and know that I'm here to make a difference. I'm here to change some things. I'm here to give back. And if you want to be a part of that, continue to follow Magnolia's Heart, because it's some things, some great things that's coming. I've already had somebody prophesize to me and tell me that you're going to be doing some great things. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be doing some really, really big things. You just got to stand on what you came here to do, and you got to keep pushing and move forward with the plans that whatever God put on your heart to do, you step in, you stand on it, and you move forward. And anybody who knows me knows that if I say that I'm going to do something, you can put a pin in it. I hope that everybody is having a blessed Thursday. That is my little live today. I know it's a lot of information. I know it's a lot of things that you know, make people a little emotional, may, you know, ruffle a few feathers or whatever the case may be. But it is my story, it's my journey, and I plan to share more and more with everybody, so that I can make a difference, so that I can change some things, and that I can help some people that have experienced similar things to me, and hopefully help some of these kids that's in the local area. I'm in San Antonio, y'all, so hopefully be able to change some things. My background check come back. It's some things that I have lined up, and it's some things that I'm going to do. And I'm not going to say that I want to do, that I'm going to do. So y'all stay tuned. And I will be posting something on my page here today with the link to the fundraiser for you guys to give. There is no amount that's going to be too small. You can give $1. You can give $1 if you want. But ultimately, it's going to be to bless 5 women that are struggling. And you can be anywhere. You ain't got to be in San Antonio. You ain't got to be in Texas. You could be anywhere. But may God continue to bless you. A beautiful listening from Lincoln, Georgia. Oh, thank you, Miss Nita. I appreciate that. But just stay tuned, y'all. I'm going to be dropping my link later today for my fundraiser. And I will also be letting you guys know how I'll be picking the 5 women that I'm going to help. I do have a sponsor for 2024, but I have to meet with them and sign documentation and paperwork and all of that good stuff to be able to get the checks rolling and all of that kind of stuff. And with nonprofits, it's a whole lot of paperwork. So I want to make sure that I do things the right way. But when I do choose these 5 women to help, just know that the money is not going to be put directly into your hand. But if you provide the documentation that I ask you to provide, I will be paying whatever bill that you feel like you need the most help with. So stay tuned, y'all. And I hope everybody is having a blessed day, and hopefully a good weekend coming up here. We got Friday tomorrow, so see you guys later. I'm about to go and finish my little walk, go drink my little protein shake, and I got some business to handle so that I can get this fundraiser started. Got some things to do. But it was good chatting with you guys. I hope everybody have a good one.